Guys, it's Fonzie with DipYourCar.com. This is the dipping industry DYC DipCast podcast. Oh, oh, episode number something or after. Anybody?
13.
Episode number
Lucky
13.
number 13.
I genuinely have to look at that stuff. It's Fonzie from Dip Your Car. With me, as always, is Adam, our sound engineer Dan in the corner. We've got an interesting guest for you guys today, something that should hold some good value for not only DIY customers, but the installers and professionals as well. What else are we covering today?
So, as you mentioned, we have a fun interview today. We're going to talk a little bit about some things that we're catching up on, tie up some loose ends with some people, and not only a video, but also Dip of the Month, Installer of the Month. We're also going to take some Q&As that were emailed in, and also some questions that people had about the Dip Pearl Top Coat, maybe that weren't completely answered, or there was some confusion even with the tutorial. And on the phone right now is Jared, our marketing and media manager.
Jared, how are you, dude?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Good. So Jared's been with us. How long have you been with us now? Over 2 years, right?
Since early 2013, in late January.
So yes, yes, over 2 years. I met Jared at a car show, and he did some freelance work for Dip Your Car in the beginning. He actually helped us put our first round of T-shirts together. Everyone's familiar with the Euro design, those hatchbacks, the Mustang, the American design, and a couple of those shirts. Those were actually Jared's designs, and he brought them in. We finished that project, and then we finished another project, and I looked at him, and I was like, I hope you don't mind me telling this story, Jared, but
oh, I don't at all.
I was like, so do you have, he did a great job. Him and I had a great chemistry. We worked well together. And graphic designers sometimes are difficult to work with because there's a lot that goes into that job. You got to take critique and criticism well, and there's a lot of ego involved in that. And I'm kind of like a graphic designer's worst nightmare because I went to school for that. So not that I know everything that Jared knows, and not that I can accomplish everything Jared can, but I know what he's doing when he's doing it. So sometimes I'm like, why didn't you do this instead of this? And anyway, we had a good working chemistry, and I was like, where are you working now? Do you have a job? And he's like, well, I kind of do. I kind of don't. I'm running my own graphics company. I'm like, so you don't. Like, I want you to work for us. And it's been an amazing addition to the team. So one of the things we wanted to bring you on for, Jared, and have a discussion with you about is you see the majority of pictures that come in on a daily basis. Talk to me a little bit about the frustrations that you have and the challenges that you have when somebody shows you a picture of their dip job, something they're proud of, and we're not able to utilize that picture, say, in social media or in some of the contests we have. So what are some of the challenges you see with those pictures?
Well, I mean, it can be frustrating because I know that, a lot of work has been put into every single dip job. Sometimes if the camera can't tell the story, it's just, I guess it's kind of unfortunate. But that's why, the best kind of photos, it helps everyone out the most because you can see what went into it and you can get an idea of how good, of whatever quality someone's putting into, a specific project.
So when you see,
it can be kind of frustrating because we want to share all the work, with marketing fee and whatnot, and if it's just not there, we don't want to show anything poorly about their work. If they're doing a good job, it looks great.
Let me ask you a question. Some of the things that I know that you run into are resolution issues, lighting issues, framing issues. We'll talk about equipment and everything in a minute, but some of the things that people really need to pay attention to, and you show me this, you're like, oh, dude, just finished this dip job. He's super proud of it, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to share this picture. And that comes from a very specific expectation. we've been around for a while now, and we have over 400,000 Facebook fans and a healthy amount of Instagram followers. And when we put a picture out there, people expect a certain level of quality in that picture. And we want to make sure that that picture, like Jared said, properly tells the story of that dip job. Somebody could do the sickest dip job in the world. If it's poor pictures that were sent in, there's not that much we can do with it.
Right.
So walk me through this, Jared. I just finished my car. I'm proud of the dip job. I've got a camera, whether it's a high quality cell phone camera or I've got a camera.
Mhm.
Give me some ideas of where you'd like to see me take a picture from a location point of view. What would I want to avoid and what would I want to look for when I'm taking a picture from a location point of view?
I mean, at best, you want to avoid an excessive amount of sunlight, and just the same, you want to avoid too dark of an environment. The sunlight can kind of whitewash the photo and leave certain parts of the car within shadow. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, if it's too dark, the light just isn't there to show the project.
So we want what, neutral lighting? I mean, not direct sunlight hitting one side of the car or the other. And as far as the surroundings, I mean, give me an idea of what I want to look for. Do I want to park it in my my driveway, in the parking lot? What are some of the things I want to look for there?
I mean, I think the more interesting of a surrounding you can have can kind of help to. I mean, it's hard to explain. You can. I'm trying to think of a way to describe it. I think if you have for example, an open area,
Mhm.
it might kind of focus more on the car because there's not something in the background that's taking your focus away from the vehicle.
Mhm.
Like, say you take a picture in a parking lot, there might be other vehicles. They can kind of get in the way, and you lose the subject of the photo, which is the car you're trying to photograph.
So we want to avoid any distraction. So like we see a lot of times, people parking in the parking lot, there's cars on either side, they're taking a picture and submitting it for a contest like Dip of the Month. You want to have some space. You want your car to be the focal point of the photo, right?
Yes.
All right. And
That's
now,
correct.
so we've talked about lighting. You want some type of neutral lighting. Don't have one side of the car completely blazed out in light and the other side like a shadow. Give your car the center of attention in the photo. Put it out in an open field. Put it out in an open parking lot. Don't have things on the outside of it that are going to cause distractions or different focal points. What about framing?
And when it comes to lighting, I just want to add one other thing. I know it can be difficult because sometimes the installers are doing someone's car. Maybe they only have a limited amount of time with it. If you're in a situation where the lighting is not excellent, maybe move the vehicle around to try to if it's looking good from a certain angle, maybe you want to move the vehicle after you've taken some photographs and just get the light on different parts of it.
Right. So just kind of try it out and collect as much as you can.
Yes.
And as far as framing, I mean, we've seen everything from people will send in for Dip of the Month. It's just a shot of their front bumper, or maybe the end of the car. I mean, we obviously, first and foremost, we want the entire car in the photo, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless you have a couple detail shots, the majority of your photos, you definitely want to have the entire vehicle within frame, nothing hanging out, no bumpers hanging out at the side of the photo or anything like that.
Right. And we don't want it to be too far away either. I mean, these are general things that, I guess maybe you guys would be a little bit surprised that we deal with on a daily basis because we have so many photos that Jared and his team have to kind of sift through on a daily basis to say, everyone wants to get their stuff shared, and we want to give people as much recognition as we can, whether they're authorized installers or just do-it-yourselfers doing their own project. But again, we have to meet that certain criteria of quality so that people can kind of get consistency from us. So we try to find the best pictures that we can of the best dip jobs that we can. So keep all this stuff in mind when you're going through. Now, as far as picture quality, I'm not saying anyone has to go out there and buy high-end equipment for their, or cameras for this. The Instagram photos and stuff that I put out on my own personal account are taken with my iPhone. But the size of the images is something that, Jared, I think you have some problems with as well. I don't know if people are compressing things or what they're doing.
Yeah, you definitely want to have the highest possible quality. So in general, that would be the original file. From when you took the picture. If you're using, most cameras, you actually have settings so you can choose what quality you'd like to take it. Whether the best and most ideal being a raw photo, which is not compressed at all. But if you are using a JPEG, you definitely want to have it at the maximum setting. And then the other end of that is, when you are sending a picture, you also want to maintain the best possible resolution. So you want to send the original files. You don't want to send a screenshot of a photo from Instagram or something, because
Right.
that's gonna be compromised. It'll be a little bit smaller.
Yeah, one of the things that I was really bummed about this year is that we wanted to put together a DYC calendar. And, sitting down with Jared, we were whiteboarding the idea and going over the details. We got everything that we wanted to in place. And then Jared went in. And the idea was to take the dip of the month and the featured installer of the month winners and integrate them one way or another and have those 12 or 24 guys or guys and girls at cars, be the images for all 12 months, maybe one at the top, one at the bottom for each month. The problem was when we dug into it, the lot of pictures that we had for the majority of those winners weren't high quality enough to use in print, or at least print that size. So what we're gonna do, I think Jared, we were talking about this, is reaching out to every month this year to the dip of the month and featured installer of the month winners, and making sure that we collect at least one photo that's at a resolution high enough for them or from them to use in the calendar for next year. Right, Jared?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it, so that we can actually have a nice, print quality calendar.
Yeah, and again, the consistency thing is huge. We're not going to put out a calendar unless it meets the the expectations of what we want it to look like and what we want our customers and fans to enjoy. So just to kind of wrap it up, Jared, what we want to do is we want to make sure that the pictures that come in from these people that are spending their hard-earned money on the product, putting their time and energy into it, and they want us to share it and enjoy the pictures along with everybody else. Make sure I'm on point with this, Jared. You want to make sure it's framed properly. Please make sure the lighting is on point. Make sure that you can see everything nice and clear, crisp and in focus. Don't compress the images when you send them in. What else am I missing? Is that pretty much it?
I think that's that's the largest bit of it. Maybe I would also add that from an installer standpoint, it might make sense every once in a while, especially if you have a really amazing vehicle, to get in touch with some kind of a either not necessarily professional photographer, but maybe you can find a local amateur photographer. It might make it worth it to really show off your work.
Yeah. I mean, look at the guys at the Carskin. I mean, guys like that and custom coating. These guys are taking high quality photos because, like Richard said on one of the first interviews, that's everything for him. I'm going to do a car. Say he does like the Ferrari or whatever he did that time. You take that and you have that experience, and then you're either going to use that as a marketing tool moving forward 100 times, or you're going to lose that opportunity. And the only people that are going to see that and really get drawn to your company from it are people that see it in person, and that's a waste. You want to make sure you capitalize on it. And picture quality is everything for these authorized installers. You guys are doing stuff, and part of the benefit of working with DipYourCar and partnering with DipYourCar is for us to utilize our social media platforms to expose your work and tag you in it and draw people back to you. If the pictures that you send, it doesn't matter the quality of your work, if the pictures that you send aren't something that we can use, or we feel like they don't tell the story and really give your dip job the quality and the credibility that it deserves, we're gonna miss a bunch of shots there. So, all right, Jared, thank you very much for kind of setting that straight, and hopefully a lot of people, as they continue to send us pictures for social media shares as well as these contests, will kind of write this stuff down and keep it in mind as they go forward.
All right, yeah, thank you very much, and nice to finally be on the DipCast.
You got it, brother. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, see you guys.
Later.
Bye.
It's a good dude.
Okay. All right, so I know that a bunch of people have been mentioning that because of the Dip Pearl top coat, I know that we haven't really got to do the video for the recent beta Midnight Pearl with the Caribbean blue-green flake over top of it. And so we kind of wanted to address that, or at least pose, when's that video?
Yeah, that's been a bit of a, that video has gotten kind of lost. We've been so consistent with routines.
Right.
We shoot a car, we put a teaser picture out that night. The next morning we get in, we do the photo shoot, we do the video, and that night the video goes up.
Right.
And I think that's really upsetting or not sitting well with some people, that this one didn't follow that routine. The expectation is there.
Right.
The problem is it's essentially the first real, I don't want to say real, but it's the first big impact metal flake video that we've ever done. It's using the new top coat. It's applied properly. The finish is awesome. The car looks great. And we finished the video, and 3 or 4 days in a row in South Florida, it was raining.
Right.
I need sunlight to do that video properly. There's no way we can, again, miss an opportunity and do the photo shoot, do the video, and have those flakes, which are only meant to do one thing, which is essentially reflect light, just not reflecting light. And you're not going to see it. You're not going to be able to experience it. I've seen it today. I was doing some testing this afternoon. I was over at the shop, and I saw that car, walked around it a couple times in the direct sunlight, and I was like, "Jeez, this is crazy." So that video, I think, if the weather permits, tomorrow, which is Thursday, in the morning, we're going to go finish and wrap that video up.
All right.
And then that means tomorrow evening or night, that video should be live and finally up there.
I know Sage is going to be happy about that. He PM'd me a bunch of times because that was a combination that he was looking to do, and he's like,
car looks crazy.
See it. And you're right, because it was at the corporate office a couple days back, and it blew my mind how unique it looked.
In the depth, when you throw those flakes on there, it just changes it.
Right.
I'm not saying every car we do needs to have flake on it, or every dip job deserves to, or will work with flake. But when you do it right, when a project comes together with that flake, it's just a different experience.
Right. And you kind of mentioned our consistency and kind of how we have a pattern of the way we do things. I know today I received a call about Dip of the Month and Installer of the Month.
Yeah.
And where those are.
Today is the 4th. We always try to have that stuff out by the 2nd. And I think everyone can understand that the launch of the gloss gallons has thrown us off schedule. Those gloss gallons came in a lot earlier than we were not expecting, because I kind of tracked everything and knew where everything was pacing. But we let everybody know we were planning for the 16th.
Right.
And then we pulled it back and said the 9th. And they ended up going up, what?
Monday.
The 2nd?
Right. 1st
or 2nd. All of our videos are usually scheduled out 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time. So what I had to jam in was that Dip Pearl tutorial video that you guys saw, and we filmed that over a period of time. And I wanted that to get up, because the last thing I wanted was for these gallons to start arriving at everybody's houses and shops, and they start getting them and they want to dig in, but they have no guidance. They have nobody to take their hand and walk them through and say, all right, this is a different product, and it needs to be treated as a different product.
Right.
This is not glossifier. There's expectations here. You have to know what you're getting into. It was very important for me, personally and professionally, for people to view that video and digest it before they even crack those gallons open.
Yeah.
So everything's going to be pushed back just a bit. And tomorrow, I think we are also launching the Dip of the Month and Featured Installer of the Month contests.
All right.
So
so I think that kind of wraps up a couple of the things that we had in line. I think we're going to move on to the Q&As. Again, we always get some good ones, so I wanted to move on to those. Jared, actually, not Jared, our marketing media manager, but another Jared, wanted to know what kind of research and development goes into all the products that we release and things of that nature. Ghost.
goes.
Like, for example, you had teased those pictures a couple of weeks ago about the chrome and things like that. What exactly does the timeline look like?
It depends whether or not the product that's being tested is like a coating, for example, like the high gloss top coat,
Mhm.
or something like a pearl. Um, if it's a coating, you're going to be looking at long-term testing, anywhere between 3 months to, like, the high gloss top coat was 14 months.
Mhm.
That was testing and development, but that's essentially what we're doing for multiple manufacturers, is testing and development. And a coating, for example, like what one of the ones we're working on is a clear bra product, because the new top coat is a top coat. It's not meant to be a clear bra product. A
Right.
clear bra product should be very durable and very tough and stand alone and be thicker. And I mean, there's a lot that goes into what essentially a clear bra product would be as a successful, version of that. So that, for example, we've been testing for, I guess, what's March, going on 4 months now. And that's everything from application methods to different equipment. I mean, we've got everything from solder jet guns to developers. I mean, everything in there, all the way down to even guns that are on a lower scale than the DYC turbine and spray system, because we want to take everything that we test and run it through the entire gauntlet
Right.
to make sure we understand what people are going to go through when they touch this stuff. So we'll do a lot of application testing, climate testing, humidity, temperature, obviously from a durability, peelability point of view, elemental, UV exposure. We'll send it to the lab to make sure it goes and gets blasted with UV. And then the last thing we'll do from a coating point of view is drive around with it. We'll
Mhm.
put it on one of our personal cars or shop cars and drive around with it, wear and tear, 3 months, whatever it is, to make sure that we understand exactly the experience that one of our consumers is going to go through. For pearls, it's a little bit different, a little bit less testing goes into it. We'll spray it over multiple different base coats. We'll check the ability for the pearl to be suspended properly, the coverage. Obviously the color and the look. Does it fit in the Dip Pearl lineup? Is it something that makes sense for us to have? Is it too close to other things, or is it unique enough? And then obviously UV testing as well. Not all pearls are UV proof. I
Mhm.
don't think any pearl is UV proof by itself. Um, and automotive grade pearls all the way down are going to get some UV fading over time. Some of them at different degrees and different levels. And what we always suggest to do whenever possible is use, in the past, the Glossifier with the Fade Buster, or obviously now the DYC Dip Pearl Top Coat, which, and we'll go over this a little bit later, has that same UV protection. So testing is a big piece of our business. It's a lot of my time throughout the week goes to and is devoted to testing, but it's so worth it. And I know it's frustrating from a fan point of view and a
And that's
consumer
what I
point
was
of view.
going to say,
And like,
but it's worth
geez,
it.
release the chrome,
Right.
release the red pearls, release these things. And I love that I have things in my possession that people want, but it doesn't do me any good to sell it to you unless I know exactly the experience you're going to have.
Right.
I don't want you coming back to me and saying, bro, look what this did. It
Right.
didn't last, or it did this, it stained it. Because I'll feel terrible, and I don't want to go through that. So I want to minimize or completely or dissolve that opportunity at all. And the other thing is, I want you to be happy with it.
Right.
I mean, we want you to talk about the product. We want you to be happy with it. We want you to be, a DYC fan and supporter, and kind of join the family. And you're only going to do that if you know that what we do is in your best interest and we're looking out for you.
Right. And you have mentioned this on previous DipCasts, like comparing one of our products to a different product they can get somewhere else. And yeah, that other product might work, but we've tested other products. The things that we've tested and implemented and we have on our site are specifically designed to work with a dipped vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, that goes as far as waxes and cleaners and things like that. But we're never going to have the end all be all of
Right.
something. Pre-dip is not the only way to prep your car before you dip it. It's just what we use. We have tested it, we developed it for a specific purpose, and we know what to expect.
Mhm.
We know that when you buy it, it's going to work.
Right. And I've heard
There's no-
technicians say that to customers. It's like, you can use other things, but when you call us back and you say, hey, this is going on, if you use pre-dip, we at least have that under our belt and can say, all right, well, you prepped it correctly. We have
Right, and
experience
that
with that.
eliminates that feature
Right,
versus, what did you clean it with? Oh, XYZ. Well,
right,
we've never used that. We
right.
can't really speak to that. So testing is a big piece, and it will always be a big piece of this business because it's gotten us this far,
hmm
being safe than sorry. And I'll be honest with you, there's some products out there that looked really good in the beginning.
Right.
Either the color looked great or the product looked very promising, and if we were knee-jerk reaction type of a company, I would have looked at that, priced it out, handled everything, and then launched it, placed an order for it, and got it out the
hmm
door. And a couple things that I can remember specifically, um, I'm really glad that we went with the long term because I've been surprised by a couple things.
Right.
They didn't do what the manufacturer said it was going to do, or maybe it did something that surprised both myself and the manufacturer. And those are things that I'm saying, wow, I'm really glad that we took our sweet time because
Right.
that's not something I'd want a customer to go through.
All right. Well, Wes Carty from Addicted actually sent in a pretty cool question, and we actually had received this question a little bit when you put the teaser video of the new warehouse when we moved in there. He kind of wanted to know how many employees does Dip Your Car have, and how many are in the corporate office and the warehouse.
Yeah.
What's our team look like?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's changed a lot over the past several years. As of right now, today we have 39 employees at Dip Your Car. 11 are at the corporate office in Coconut Creek. That's 11 employees. We have one that runs the DYC retail center and shop there, and everybody else is over at the DYC warehouses in Pompano.
All right, and to kind of piggyback off that, how did most of these employees get started with Dip? Like, were they friends of yours, or coworkers at other locations?
Well, no, I mean, a couple of the people that are on the team now I was friends with or at least acquaintances with before we brought them on, and I either knew somebody really well or I respected them and I knew what their personality was like and what they were capable of, and wanted to bring them on, and I was lucky enough to bring them away from other things. But I would say the majority of people are just people that met certain criteria, and we have a pretty extensive interview process. For warehouse people, for example, our warehouse manager will have a phone interview and a couple in-person interviews, and if it gets that far, I'll sit down with the individual, have a quick conversation, not to go back over everything, but I want to sit down and understand who they are and what they're all about. And then if everything looks like it's on point, then they can come on and join the team on a probationary basis. But no, I mean, out of the majority of people, there's definitely a good amount of people that I knew prior,
Right.
and then a lot of our people, including a lot of our great key people right now, are people that came in outside of it.
All right. Well, I think we should continue the Q&As, but kind of transition over to the top coat type questions.
Yeah, that's a very relevant topic right now, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that will literally take as much information as they can before they start diving into it.
Right, and basically what I did was I just scanned through your post on Dippers Anonymous, Dip Your Car community, on the YouTube channel, PMs that were sent to me. Basically, any place that there was information about the top coat, I scanned through and I tried to collect as many questions as possible regarding the top coat that maybe, like I said in the introduction, may have been answered, but there's still some gray area. So let's just kind of cover those. Actually, Jake had put a post on Dippers Anonymous on Facebook. He wanted to know, when spraying the Dip Pearl top coat with and without additives, should you be walking the length of the car or should you be going panel by panel?
I think anytime that you put the DYC Dip Pearl top coat in your gun, you should be walking the length of the car, whether it's with pearls or gloss coats. And the specific reason for that is not only consistency to make sure that every panel gets the same amount, but you want to avoid dry spots. And dry spots is a very big thing when you're dealing with high gloss. Dry spots don't really come into play when you're doing matte finishes. When you're talking about a high gloss finish, a dry spot can stick out like a sore thumb. And we'll have a video in the future talking specifically about avoiding those. But that going panel to panel on a high gloss coat, there's no way you'd be able to do it, because as you finish the driver's side door, you move over to the passenger side or the rear door, that driver's side door is already drying. So as you're making your passes and that air passes over the dip on the driver door, it's just going to start drying that section out. You're going to see it all over the car. So always dip, DYC Dip Pro Top Coat is in your gun. Walk the length of the car.
All right. Stefan actually also posed this question on Dippers Anonymous. He wanted to know, what's the drying time like for the top coat compared to regular PDS or glossifier?
That's going to depend on a lot of figures, like your temperature and your climate and your humidity levels. So I can't give you a specific time frame on it if it is or isn't 5 minutes longer, 10 minutes longer per coat, but it is longer. And it's weird because the top coat is going to feel dry to the touch relatively quickly, right about around the same time as maybe a glossifier would, but it's going to stay soft for a long period of time after that. So, and when I say long period, I mean like maybe an extra 15 or 20 minutes. So if you normally give a wet coat of glossifier or wet coat of PDS 10 minutes to dry, try 20 on the top coat. You want it to be completely flashed and completely dry before either you put your next coat on or before you start breaking down the car. And when you put that last gloss coat on, give it a good at least 20 minutes to dry before you start pulling things off the car and breaking it down, because it will stay soft. Now, sometimes that can help it to your advantage because those peel when wet areas are actually going to stay soft longer. So you won't be rushing around the car to get everything peeled when wet. So it's forgiving there, but at the same time, you got to be careful.
Right. You don't want to let it over dry. Well, in terms of when you're peeling the tape and things.
Well,
of that
yeah.
nature.
What I'm saying is it's going to stay wetter longer, softer longer. So an issue, and we had this a long time ago. I think when we did the S4, it was dry to the touch. We were just getting, to know the product a little bit more from a whole car point of view and digging in a little bit more. And I think we spun one of the stools around. One of the pieces of the handle of the stool hit the car. Normally wouldn't have done anything, and actually pushed a bunch of the product up. And then you can see the stock paint underneath, and we're like, holy crap, it's still that soft. And we had waited 10-15 minutes. So give it a little bit of extra time.
All right. Phillips, actually, another question on Dippers Anonymous, wanted to know, are we going to release a video that shows peelability? We've shown peelability in other videos for other products. Are we going to release a video to show peelability of the Dip Pearl Top Coat?
Yeah, I mean, we've got to peel these cars eventually, especially when we change colors. So we will definitely show a video peeling one of the gloss cars. We've got, right now with the gloss, we've got the Porsche has one coat. We've got the S8. We have the Mustang has how many? I'm not sure. Okay. 2, I think.
He's a sound guy.
At least he's awake.
Yeah.
The Mustang, I think, has 2 coats. And the S4 has 3 now. I mean, there's high gloss cars right now, and when they're ready to peel down, as long as I'm there when we peel them, because sometimes we'll drop a car off in the morning, and Gabe has to peel it, clean it, and get it ready for another color. If I'm doing something else and I'm not there, we won't be filming that. But we'll make sure the stars align at one point.
Right.
The reality is this. Is the top coat going to affect the peelability? No, it's not. What it does is exactly what glossifier used to do. If you spray one hood with 5 coats of PDS, and then you spray another hood with 5 coats of PDS and 3 wet coats of glossifier, the one with PDS is going to stretch more. It's going to be softer and it's going to stretch more. The one with the glossifier is going to be harder and a little bit more rigid. It's not going to stretch, and if you pull it too hard too soon, it'll pop, basically. And that is exactly what the top coat's going to do. It's going to make it a little bit more rigid, a little bit tougher. It definitely makes the PDS grip the surface harder. And then it will pop a little bit instead of stretch all the way. But that's just kind of the nature of that. But it doesn't affect the peelability at all.
Right. All right. And he actually said that he felt bad for the first car that gets peeled because they look so good that he didn't.
Well, we appreciate that.
Jason actually wanted to know, do we continue to keep the gun on the same setting, still around the 70% range when using the Dip Pearl Top Coat, or do you change and modify?
I have no idea. I mean, the reality is I have no idea what the setting on the gun is when I'm spraying. I don't even look at the wheel. Because there's different temperatures, there's different pearls, there's different viscosities, there's different everything. I just spray on the wall, and I look for about a 7-inch spray fan, and I just dial up or down until I get where I want to be, and then I spray. I have
Mhm.
no idea what the clicks are on it. Just adjust it till you have about a 7-inch, very narrow football-shaped oval pattern.
Right.
That's about what you want.
Okay. All right. So yeah, you had mentioned, test spraying and things like that. You
Right.
definitely have some. Hassani, also on Dippers Anonymous, wanted to know how well does the product cover, in terms of how much product are you going to lay down?
I don't really understand what he's asking.
Mhm.
I mean, how much product you need is really dependent on multiple factors as far as how much, what you want the end result to look like. Are you using the product for pearl coats and gloss coats? What color are you doing? What pearl are you doing? That's an unanswerable question. I mean, if you have questions about how much product you need, call into customer
Right.
service or fill out the product quote request
Right.
on DipYourCar and get an answer that's specific to you.
Right.
There is no generic answer for that.
There's so many variables that go into that.
Right.
All right. Najee on YouTube made the comment, is this product ever going to be available in aerosol cans?
Yep.
Okay. And then Robert, also on YouTube, wanted to know, is this going to be something that he can get internationally?
You can, well, there's a lot of caveats there. Can we ship the DYC TopCoat internationally? Yes. Not to Canada and not to European countries, countries in the EU. If you want, the thing is that it doesn't really make sense for an individual to order one Pro Car kit, sending it to whatever country, because the shipping on that is going to be extensive. If that's something you want to do, by all means, email dan@dipyourcar.com and inquire and get a shipping quote. A lot of wholesalers, resellers, and Dip Your Car authorized wholesalers, resellers, installers, and so forth are going to be carrying the product internationally. If they're in a country that meets the criteria for it and is a hazardous product, there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. But if you have any interest or inquiries about carrying the DYC product internationally, email dan@dipyourcar.com.
And last question for the Dip Pearl Top Coat. Jason, also on YouTube, wanted to know, is it UV resistant, and how long is the product going to last?
It's going to last just as long as essentially you want it to, as long as it's applied properly. I mean, you can expect usually a 2 to 3 year lifespan out of properly applied Plasti Dip. And it's definitely UV resistant. It has the fade buster in it, so it's just as UV resistant as Glossifier. It's not bulletproof on something like a fluorescent or a blaze, for example. It will extend the life of that tremendously, but from a UV resistance point of view, it's definitely there. It's the same as fade buster and Glossifier.
All right.
So that's where we're at for that.
All right, cool. I think hopefully that was I was able to collect as many of those questions. I did try to focus on ones that kind of were repetitive, where the same question kept popping up. So hopefully we were able to answer most, if not all, of the questions. But I'm sure they'll continue to pop up, and that's what we're here for.
It has been a very busy week with this gloss gown launch, which has been in the works for a very long time, and some other projects that we're working very hard to push through. If you guys thought that this gloss gown thing was a spike that is going to drop back down, I mean, you're incorrect with that. I mean, we have a lot of big projects that we're working on for this year, so it's been a very exhausting but very exciting week, and we've got a lot more to come. So other than that, we're going to wrap it up for Fonzie, Adam, and our sound engineer Dan, who's still reasonably awake. We'll catch you on the next episode.